So, welcome to the OhSoSpurs podcast, where today we have a special piece of content for you. We're joined by Jonathan, who's a coach at Slavia Prague. How are you, Jonathan? Good, thanks for joining. And I guess people can guess what the main topic's going to be today. Tottenham have signed Kinsky from Slavia Prague, and it's a player that, Jonathan, some of your old tweets have kind of blown up a bit as people saw you saying, this guy's got great potential. One day he'll be at he's going to play for a Champions League club or something along those lines you were saying, even though he has played in Europe already, I'm aware. But do you want to tell us a little bit about his journey, of what you're aware of, and a bit about his playing style maybe as well?
Yeah, so Tonda's only been with us, or we signed him in, I think it was 2021. Before then, so he started his career in a club called Tempo Prague, which actually they're quite famous in Czech Republic for producing players from the foundation phase. So, for example, Milan Baroš, who your obviously English football fans will know really well. So he started off at Tempo before he moved to Baník Ostrava, and then he moved to England. So. And I think Petr Čech also, which obviously Kinsky is going to be compared to a lot, I would say, over the next coming few months, if not already. Then I think Petr also started at Tempo as well in the foundation phase. So we've had a number of players come from Tempo, so they have a really good reputation, and Tonda came from there. I think he played also for Dukla Prague, who they were like the army team, I guess, in history. They were quite successful. They've had a bit of a rough period the last, well, certainly since I've been here, 7 years. And, they're flitting between, first and second division. So he's come from Dukla, and then I think we signed him, as I said, 2021. I think he made, to be honest, I think when he was 18, he played for Dukla. So he made his debut in adult football when he was 18. So although he's 21 years old, he's got a lot of experience. His father is also a really famous Czech goalkeeper, represented the national team a few times and played for some respectable clubs in the first division in the Czech Republic. From what I understand of Tonda, like his dad is a really big influence on his career. He's certainly more experienced than you would expect from a 21-year-old. I've spoken to Tonda personally. I don't know him particularly well, but I have spoken to him in my work in Slavia, and he seems like a really grounded, very mature young man. So I would say that any Spurs fans who look at his age, I don't think that's necessarily an indicator of his real maturity and football experience. When we did sign him in 2021, he's been on loan the last 2 seasons. So the first time, I think he was at a club called Vyškov, who were in the second division, or who certainly were at the time in the second division. And then I think he moved to Pardubice in the first division. So on the second season of adult football, he played for Pardubice. They were, they're struggling. They were certainly struggling towards the bottom of the league, first division at that time. He helped. He played like a major role in them staying in the division. So again, you're looking at his age as being 21, but he's already packed a lot of experience into his career already. And then we had an injury. Our first choice, I guess, number one goalkeeper, Jindřich Stanek, he got an injury in the Euro Championships for Czech Republic. Dislocated his shoulder, I believe. So Tonda got his opportunity at the start of this season, and I have to say that he's not looked back. Been ever present, extremely reliable. He's got, I think, 12 clean sheets in the league this season, which is pretty remarkable over half the season. What I would say is that he does have a really good defence in front of him. You asked me a little bit about Slavia's style of play, and I think one of the things that, well, there are a few things to say about that. The first thing is that Slavia as a club, in my opinion, like obviously being an English person and watching a lot of English football, it's probably the closest to English football in terms of the philosophy, in terms of the tactical principles and the style of play than you would get to Premier League style in terms of the build-up. There's a lot of short build-up that's required from a Slavia team, so the goalkeeper is quite important in that. In the first phase especially, so what usually happens at Slavia is that we play short in the first phase of the build-up from the goalkeeper, and then we're trying to create spaces to play longer balls in behind the defensive line after that first phase. So, and I'm pretty sure. No, I'm not really an expert in Tottenham Hotspur, I have to say, but I do watch English football obviously every weekend, and I'm aware of Postecoglou, and some of the criticism directed towards him has been that maybe the Spurs are a little bit naive, or they don't have that plan B, when they are pressed, when they do have difficulty building up from the goalkeeper. And I think that something that Tonda is really good at is, first of all, his decision making. He's very calm on the ball in the build-up. That's probably his biggest strength. But also, his ability to play longer and shorter passes. There's real variety in his build-up, and I think that's something that Spurs fans will be quite happy to see. And I think that it makes him a good fit for the style of play that Postecoglou wants, and perhaps will enable Spurs to have more of a plan B game. One of the highlights before Christmas was we scored a goal against Carabina at home, and I think he got the second assist from that. There was I'm not sure if it was a set piece or a cross came into the box. Tonda took it, and then he plays this amazing 60-yard sidewinder volley to our winger on the counter attack. The winger plays the ball into the box then, and we score. So within 10 seconds of Tonda having the ball's in the back of the net at the other end. So I think those kinds of highlights and those kinds of examples are something that maybe Spurs fans should be quite excited.
And what game was that? You said that. Do you remember what the game was for that? So people can go find it on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah,
they want to go look that up.
I think it was a game against Carabina, so Karbina, and they're a pretty good team, to be honest, themselves in their own right. I would say like a mid-table first division, and I think we won the game like 5-1 or 6-1. It was a pretty good performance. Yeah, that was one of the highlights of the game. One of the goals was created by Tonda. So yeah, it's as I said, it's an indication of what he can do. I've already seen on social media that a lot of Spurs fans have been looking on YouTube for highlights. Obviously, one of the problems really is that Czech football doesn't have that high profile and doesn't have that exposure in the UK. So there were some comments that I read of, who's this guy, or people were kind of a bit confused about or didn't really know anything about Tonda, and I would recommend that they watch some of the YouTube videos, because in this case it is quite accurate for what he's able to do and for some of his strengths and his characteristics as well.
So his strengths are very much in distribution. He plays well with his feet. The classic, we always get this when we sign a player. You can never appease everyone. Some people will say, well, he's too young. And I think because there's a stigma associated with a lot of Tottenham signings that we desperately need experience over potential at the moment, because we signed a lot of really strong prospects across Europe. But it sounds like, he's already played in the Europa League and Champions League, right, in the group stages. So he's definitely experienced for his. As you said earlier, Postecoglou's playing style is very much out from the back, and our challenge. Well, put it this way: Fraser Forster's nicknamed the Great Oak by our fans. We all know who he is. He's a huge guy. His strengths, natural ability, are not in distribution and playing with his feet, and he's asked to do that. So Kinsky obviously brings that immediate value. But what about shot stopping as well? Is he shot stopping and also on set pieces? Spurs fans be wondering, because that's been an area that gets people nervous when the ball's whipped in by the keeper. In the Premier League, the style at the moment, as you'll have seen, obviously with Arsenal, the fashion at the moment is to surround a goalkeeper with 4 or 5 players and make their life hell. And so you can, get something from that. So Spurs fans will be praying he's confident at collecting a ball as much as he is distributing a ball. Is that an area he's good at?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in terms of the shot stopping, one of the things that you have to consider, I think, is that Slavia, I don't know how many goals we've conceded, but it's ridiculously low amounts. Like, we don't concede many goals, but we are this season for sure. We are the strongest team in the league. So we dominate a lot of the ball. A lot of it is possession based. A lot of it, we spend a lot of time attacking in most of the games. So it'd be interesting, really, as to how Tonda reacts to, perhaps being in a team that doesn't always dominate possession. I understand that the first game potentially for him is against Liverpool, so that's going to be a completely different challenge than playing in the Czech League with a team who doesn't concede a lot of shots, doesn't concede a lot of territory and possession. So that might be something that we don't really know until he's in that situation. However, what I would say is Czech football, a lot of teams that play against us, they rely on set pieces to gain success, because, as I said, we're quite dominant in terms of our technical ability, in terms of our squad strength. So teams tend to sit back in a mid-block against us and rely on counter-attacks and set pieces. And Tonda's never made, in my recollection, never made any serious errors from set pieces. And, he's 6'3", I think. So he's quite a commanding presence. He's physically well built as well, quite a strong boy. And I think that he has all the characteristics, to be extremely competent in terms of dealing with aerial balls and dealing with set pieces. And in terms of shot stopping, he's incredible, to be honest. Again, we have a lot of faith in him. The defenders around him at Slavia had a lot of faith in him that any opportunities that opponents create, he's usually on top of it. And, as I said, I've never seen him make serious mistakes. I was speaking to my colleague, actually, so I'm a coach of the under-17 category at Slavia, and I spoke with our goalkeeper coach about Tonda yesterday, and he did say that when he first started in adult football, he did make a few high-profile errors, I would say, like big mistakes. And one of the things that really struck us about him was that he has like a really high level of, I would say, emotional bravery. That he doesn't get fazed easily by making mistakes. And at Slavia, he's not really made any that I can think of serious errors that led to goals or chances. So I can't really think of any serious weaknesses, apart from the fact, as I said, that his experience in Slavia might be a little bit different than what he faces in the Premier League and what he faces, at Tottenham. As I said, that might not dominate every single game, might be under pressure from, as you said, set pieces from clubs like Arsenal, who are maybe right now. Maybe you guys don't want to admit it, but they are one of the best teams in the world at set pieces.
Oh, they absolutely are. I mean, you don't score 24 goals in 18 months from corners unless you're doing something very right from corners. And he could be thrown right into the mixer, right? His first Premier League debut could be against Arsenal away. So what? It's the classic Spurs curse we find. It seems there's an aura around the club determined to destroy anyone's confidence with the biggest challenge they can throw at them. And Postecoglou's risen above it quite a lot, despite having 14 players out at points this season. He proactively identifies players. He says, look, once you get into the top and percentile of players, there's very little difference between them. What I look for is brave players who have shown they've overcome adversity in the past and they want to be challenged. So it sounds like that's the kind of personality type we're working with here. It's someone who's gone, I'm not scared to make some mistakes, be thrown out of my comfort zone and make a debut. My first two games will be against Liverpool and Arsenal, bring it on. And that's an opportunity, not anything to be worried about. So it's exciting for us because, we have our first choice goalkeeper out till end of Feb. So he's going to get lots of game time, whether he wants to acclimatise or not. But I think he already said in his first interview, if I'm making a debut after 2 days, so be it. I'll be prepared. I'll be ready, which is great. And just the last question on him, I guess, is what's the fans' reaction kind of been, have you noticed, from the sale? Is it one of, great, good for him, excited he's going to go to the Premier League, or is it, I wish he'd stayed? What's the kind of vibe been?
I think, first of all, we have to understand our place in European football at the moment. Slavia is an amazing club, and I think that we've achieved a lot of success in Europe. And, Tonda's one of many players that we've made big profits on over the last 5-6 years. So I think, compared with the spending power of the Premier League and the reputation of the Premier League, we can't compete with that. So we have to be realistic. I think over the last 6 months, and maybe even before that, there was kind of an acceptance that a player like Tonda would eventually make that step to the highest level. So I think that you can't, we're aware that we can't keep players, where it goes against their development, and we don't want to hold them for longer than necessary, because we understand that there is a football world out there that players want to play at the highest level. Players want to play in the Premier League and the Champions League, and that's not something that we can offer. So I think there's that kind of realization. I think that we're incredibly proud that we're able to develop a player for that level. That the clubs like Tottenham Hotspur and the Premier League clubs are kind of, looking now towards us as being potential, I wouldn't say feeder clubs, but clubs that produce this kind of quality of players that can go in and make an immediate impact in the Premier League. And I think if you'd have said that 10 years ago, then a lot of Slavia fans and people at the club would have laughed at that possibility or that kind of pathway. So I think that's really important. Speaking to our under-17 goalkeepers over the weekend, it's incredibly exciting for them because it's very inspirational that they have the opportunity. If Tonda's able to do that, then why not for them? Why not? That kind of pathway opens up those possibilities. Of course, it's not the first time that we've experienced it. A few years ago, Thomas sold Czech. Now he's at West Ham, sold for a big amount of money. Thomas was from our academy directly, so that was hugely exciting for us as well. So for us, it's really great as a club that we're able to take this amount of money. In terms of financial benefits, we're not. Financially, we're extremely healthy. We're a very rich club, I would say. And I'm sure that we'll find ways to replace Tonda. Of course, it is a little bit of a risk football-wise because we have our number one goalkeeper who's been out since the summer. We're hoping now that he's going to be back and ready for the start of the spring season, which I think starts next month. So we're hopefully able to replace Tonda in the short term. And then, as I said, the money that we've gained is hugely beneficial to us in terms of going out and reinvesting that and finding, the next Tonda Kinsky. And that's something that's really good for us is that, players now around the Czech Republic, they're looking at Slavia as being a realistic possibility, a realistic stepping stone to get to the top level. So in all ways, it's really positive. I don't think I've read any comment or spoken to anyone around the club that's disappointed or unhappy with the sale. I think that we're all incredibly excited to see how Tonda's going to perform, and we all have absolute faith in his ability, and I think he's going to be a revelation.
It's exciting. And can we get his name pronounced? You've said Tonda, right?
Yeah, so officially his name is Antonin, but I guess like the shortened version of that is Tonda.
Tonda, okay.
Yeah.
Super Tonda from the lane. I can hear it already. People singing that from the South Stand. That's brilliant. Yeah. I'd really hope to do a second half of this around how you got into coaching, but I'm going to have to postpone that due to just not having enough time. Would we be able to do that as a part 2, maybe, Jonathan, at some point? I'd love to know how you got into coaching, some advice for other people who might be aspiring to work in academies and major football clubs like Slavia Prague, like how you go on that journey just from your experiences. I think some of our listeners would find that really interesting to learn more.
Yeah, 100%. I'm available. Obviously, we're preparing now for our spring season, so we're going to be quite busy. I think we're in Germany the next 2 weekends. I think, or I don't know. We've got a lot of events coming up. We're currently working through a project with FIFA as well, which I'm involved in. So it's quite busy. But if time permits, then why not?
That'd be great.
I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jonathan. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and thank you for the insight on. Sorry, Rami, Tonda. On Tonda. I will call him Tonda moving forwards. On Tonda, we're very excited at Spurs. He might give Vicario a run for that number 1 spot. Let's see.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks.
Well, up the Spurs, as I always finish with, and thank you to Jonathan.
Thank you.